Hello everyone and welcome to a new video for Infinity Kingdom. This is Pyakia, a brace officer for the global version. And we have a new topic here, and how can we use some skills that benefits the marsh or benefits a designed immortal without using the description of the skill itself. For example, we have here in my fire marsh Embraso, and we have Spell Disintegrator. For example, this skill here deal damage and reduce the magical defense for the enemy immortals. And let's say, for example, I want to use Demonic Contract here, or Energy Burst, or Heavy Lift, or any other skill that will benefit my Embrace. For example, let me say that I am really in need to use Heavy Lifter alongside with Chase and Annihilation. And Spell Disintegrator doesn't have any other free spot in my Embrace skill set, but we can use Spell Disintegrator somewhere else. For example, we can use Spell Disintegrator on a support immortal, or on a defensive immortal or attack immortal, because it has no position limit. Even though it deals magical damage, we don't need the magical damage. We all know that the magical damage coming from Spell Disintegrator is super low, and we don't need it. We will not use it anymore. But the reduced magical defense is massive. It reduces the magical defense by 1,500 points. That's a lot. Not points, percentage. So that's way more a lot than points. And we need this reduced magical defense even though the magical damage is low. So we can use the reduction of the magical defense on the enemy immortals, because we already used the skill on a support immortal, or we can use it here. Let me use Rage again. Where is Rage? Rage here, Rage Blessing. And for example, we don't need full coverage on my Hippolyta. We can use Spell Disintegrator here, or we can use SG here instead of Energy Suppression. We can use Spell Disintegrator anyway else if we don't need it on my Embrace Wall. Why? Because it has no position limit, and that will benefit me from having an empty slot for Embrace Wall. For example, we have lots of changes, or we can have lots of replacements like Death Breath. Heavy Lifter here, I don't like it a lot on my Embrace. It has lots of other usages. We can use Storm Eye, we can use Demonic Contract, Battle Stance. We can use a lot of other skills. For example, Poison Thorn. We even can use some Novas, but for SD doesn't deal damage. If you want to use some damage skills, even though Death Breath will be way more better than SD, but we use SD for the reduction magical defense. That's for SD. For another skill here, we all know that Blade of Vortex deal lots of damage and deal lots of continuous damage, but we use this skill because we want the enemy team to suffer from tear effect. Why? Because my Loki here, his ultimate skill will benefit from the tear effect or bleed. So we need the tear effect from Blade of Vortex. But let's say, for example, we need to use Berserker on Alex. We need to use it. Here we need to use it because we want an Alex to deal some damage for a single target. And I want to use Berserker, and I want to use combo, I want to use anger, even though if I wanted to use Blade of Vortex just for that tier effect for Loki, I can't use Blade of Vortex on Alex. Why? Because Berserker will never trigger any trigger type skills. So what should we do with the Blade of Vortex skill? We can change any other skills on any other immortal. We can remove guard from Charles, and we can use Blade Vortex. Why? Because it has no position limit. So we can use it here. It will deal low damage because, of course, my Charles will have low physical attack. He has only 4,000 physical attack. But we can benefit from the tear effect. The tear effect will always trigger even though if you have one normal attack, or sorry, one physical attack damage, or you have 100 physical attack damage. Whether you have this or that, you will always trigger the tear effect if you can successfully hit. You can also change one of the Fedora's skills. For example, you can get rid of purification if you don't need it, even though it has the same physical attack like Charles, but some immortals has physical attack artifact. Like for example, I have a cursed artifact for my cursed Cyrus, full stars with 40% physical attack, so he should has more physical attack than my Fedora. So you get the point that you can use some skills on some immortals, and these skills here are not designed for these type of immortals, because this skill here is designed for attack type immortals, but it has no position limit. Some of the other skills like no escape here has some position limits, so you cannot use this skill on an attack type or magical type immortals. It has only support, not even ranged or defense immortals. But some other skills are designed for everything, like for Race of Power, like Victorious Pursuit, and you got my point on SD and Blade of Vortex. I just gave you these two examples, but you got my point for lots of examples. Like for example, you can use also Blade of Vortex to increase the bleed and tear effect for Loki. You can also use Blade of Vortex instead of Purification. You can use lots of usages if you want to. So that's all for this video, guys. I hope you got my point for changing the skills according to what your team needs. Thank you all for watching and see you soon.